Tenzin Dorjee Sanganje Chedan Zoje Chonam Sanjo Bardo Dane Shazo Dage Shugyo Jebe Sonam Dola Pinse Sanje Robar So Sanganje Chedan Zoje Chonam Sanjo Bardo Dane Shazo Dage Shugyo Jebe Sonam Lola Pense Sanje Luparasho Sanganje Chedan Zoje Chonam Sanjo Bardo Dane Shaso Dage Shugye Jebe Sonam Lola Pense Sanje Luparasho. Hola, Majana Gitata Nyambi Sanji Tamji Tendo Tojala Name Bayanda was Zobi Sanji Kumbara Tabashago. Petrobrajavi Cheto, Tambe Churum, but you say Yambi Colon Sanji Semchi, say Sembegon and Sembrico.
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
Angaran Samalo, Ane Sanji Combato, attending Yagure, Sonsa, Ta Sanji Combato, Shabala, Ane Debani Pang, Ane Soni Zon, and Sanji Combato, your Restati, and Zuhako Yabas.
I believe that all of us are seeking complete enlightenment or Buddhahood as our ultimate spiritual goal. In order to get there or to accomplish complete enlightened state, as we all know by now, that it is a must for us to purify our mind of two types of mental obscuration and to complete the fulfillment of two types of accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom.
If
you are wondering what are the two types of mental obscuration that we must get rid of from within our selves, they are nuitive, deluded obscuration or delusions, and obscuration to omniscience, or we call shaded, obscuration to omniscient knowledge. And so we need to abandon those two obscurations in order to get enlightened. Now, of those two obscurations, first we must get rid of delusions, and then obscuration to omniscience. And if you are wondering, what are the kinds of delusion we are talking about, maybe we can categorize the delusions into three broad types or categories, if you will. There are delusions associated with or related with the desire realm of existence or the desire world or universe. And there are delusions associated with or related with form world or form realm of existence. And then there are delusions associated with formless world or the formless realm of existence. In terms of getting rid of those three different categories of delusions, again, first we must get rid of delusions associated with the desire world, and then delusions associated with the form world, and then the delusions associated with formless world. So, in And of course, we can go and go into more details. Now, what kind of delusions exist, relating to the desire world? Of course, there are many things to talk about. For example, we can talk about the 9, what called types of delusions associated with the desire world. And of course, now you keep on going into all details. This might just complicate the matter so much. And you might get lost. So in the monastic universities where we engage in very extensive and intensive studies and debate, we have to learn about each and every, if you will, this facet or the type of delusions.
So in
other words, what I just mentioned is this, that there are 3 different world systems or 3 realms of existence. There is the desire, there is the form, and there is the formless. And there are different types of delusion, if you will, associated with each of these world systems.
CJ in your mother boundary center, CJ any conta, CB Jamosaid, Zume, here, Zignan, that CJ that Tahuder, that Denine, Koe, that young children of the Kiger, Kawak Nank, that Denima Johnny, Quan Sharopa Matana, the young young to call him worse, CJ Badum, Dry Matil Dala, Dry Amaris.
So when we look, at the structure of samsara or cyclical existence, if you will, what does it really look like? What different states exist within samsara? There are many different levels, that we can find within samsaric existence. In the formless world system, there are 4 different levels, and there is what called the peak of samsara, the top of samsara, cyclical existence, Sise. Now that's the highest point of existence in samsara, and there are delusions associated with that level. And even if we go all the way up to the highest level in samsara, called the peak level of samsara, if we don't transcend it, don't go beyond that, we could fall, into the lower levels of existence, and we could still be going round and round and round in samsara. See, so our goal is not to go round and round in samsara, but to get out of samsara.
That tension said that, the naked time your mom mango yours. You are the inner time, those pensioning, Maranso any, your mom pounded any, Chifinia pango yours.
So the basic principle or the point I'm trying to make here is that we should understand there are many forms of delusion within each of our own mind. So in terms of getting rid of the delusions, abandoning them, first we have to deal with the grosser forms of delusions, and then we try to get rid of the subtle and subtler forms of delusion. So I feel that's really important for us to understand, because it seems like, we as Dhamma practitioners, often it seems that, as we engage in a spiritual practice or into the spiritual path, we have this high expectation, almost like we want to grab the greatest outcome of the result that we could have, and we kind of somehow have a tendency to undermine or look down on what we call the sort of the other types of outcomes, or the smaller versions of the outcomes, or the smaller level practices.
Tenzin Dorjee 산지 좀 된다. 대인데 간 나야다. 내가 나니까 다 공전 제바부터 권한적 송기자니 방세 체르는 방스 터져디 충분히 톱스가나 그랬을 때 내가 차고요.
But if we study what is being said by Buddha in his discourses or sutras, and what has been elucidated by the great commentators, or in the Shastras, if you will, is this, that we should try to get rid of first the gross forms of delusions, or the coarser forms of delusions, and in terms of attainment, what we achieve or accomplish, we achieve the small spiritual goals, or the smaller levels of realization. So we get rid of the coarse forms of delusions, and we accomplish the lesser levels of attainment, or the smaller levels of attainment.
손자다 나란선 두시랑 유수상 방비나 랑기 줄이 옆에 안에 다 녀모 락바든 수면 방고 다 방토야 녀모 락바든 네 차와서 렘베렘비 땅.
So in other words, the point I'm trying to make here is based upon what Buddha and the great commentators of his teaching said, is that as we bring this point home, so to speak, look within each of ourselves, that, okay, the first thing I need to get rid of the coarse forms of delusions, the gross forms of delusions that I have, and then I will be able to deal with and get rid of subtle forms of delusion.
로종가 나란도 와서처럼 저기 이 망부시 차레스 녀모 강제 흥하나 빵스 서 란주라니 녀모 거리 휴케와이나 뜻파 빵야 흥한 빵야 그 답이시 빵고레스.
And the same point is kind of reinstated or re-emphasized in the Lojong practice, the mind training or the thought transformation practice, and many of you probably remember this already, as Geshe quoted the line from his memory, where basically the Lojong text says, the mind training text says that we must first deal with whatever delusions are predominant, dominating our mind. So those are the delusions we must first get rid of.
So the 저런저 로종 된디마크 망부시 여러분들 노지 된디만 아니면 사와처럼서 여러 때도 명문 강경 훈련 장스.
So if you are familiar with the 7-point mind training fundamental text, you can just go back and check with that. There is a particular line or statement which says, "Nyomon kangsengwanacha," meaning get rid of the predominant delusions first.
다 용체만 더 하래스. 왜 내가 nyomon 등을 마방바 아니 주시 nyomon 방토야 말이야. 주시 nyomon 마방바 좀에 그때 nyomon 방이야 말이야.
And this point really relates to what I was, I mentioned earlier, that first we must get rid of delusions associated with the desire world system, and then the delusions associated with the form world system, and then the delusions associated with the formless world system. If we don't get rid of the delusions of desire world systems, there is no way that we can get rid of the delusions associated with the higher levels of existence in samsara.
다 nyomon 강경 훈련의 장세에 다 랑주 주상 방데스. 랑주를 아니 nyomon 가리 큐큐한도는 아니 빈도 산단데 다 매게 줘보 땡해버도 다 참말로 배 나가 큐큐게 돼 차고요스.
So going back to the 7-point mind training or the Lojong text, which says that get rid of the predominant delusions first. Of course, we have to really apply that teaching to ourselves personally. This is not something to check, if others are doing it or not. We have to just look within ourselves, okay, now I want to find out, what kind of delusions are predominant in my own mind system. Now, if we look at the things we probably might share quite a bit is the 10 negative actions, which are prompted by delusions. And so we really need to pay attention to this and try to get rid of any of the 10 negative actions we have already accumulated, or not to do them again.
So that Maran so pay to Jundini, Yamar Regindini, Sano Tangni, and then Luigi going to soak about the Paka Kantushi. Now going to do Thomas to Nache, the give to pay Paka Kantushi. Tagani Nas, Yijo Nasanos or water, but then the Taman Wandi, then Yamar to Mambo Jing and Julia says that Tenzupa, you the Tangi Paka, and about the Santong was that you don't get so.
So as Dharma practitioners, or as individuals interested in practicing spirituality in our everyday life, as we lead our life, we should also be mindful of our actions of body, spirit, and mind, and we should do self-examination. That is, am I doing any of the 3 negativities of the body, such as killing? Am I killing, someone? Am I doing any of the 4 negativities of the speech, such as lying and cheating? Am I doing any of the 3 negativities of the mind, such as covetousness? And so it's really important in our everyday life, as we lead our life, to be mindful of our own actions. So the point here is not to do the negative actions.
Tindulation do that name and ballet. She had an unjupaid sailor was spent. Till any Chevalin, the Kusukan Yamara, Settlement Chevalin do Meduna, Tangi Padoti, Judy, Tangi Hubert jury, teach jury to the Mingaba the cargo.
So again, I want to bring back the reason why, we should be mindful of our actions of body, spirit, and mind, and not to indulge in negative actions. All of us share this, aspiration, the wish that we do not want to be reborn in any difficult situations or unfortunate states of existence, such as hell. Who wants to go to hell, and who wants to be a hungry ghost, who wants to be in the lesser kind of animal world. And because these are not the pleasant situations to be in, and as a matter of fact, nobody who is sane would like to be in any difficult states of rebirth. Now, that being the case, so now we have to do something not to be reborn in those situations, and not to do the negativities, and purifying our negativities are the necessary actions of the practices, the causes to prevent our rebirth in difficult situations.
Magewale any donge kunse, any gele, Magewale ta, Niendo tang, gele dendro tanges. She's a Magewin debut nami to any Niendo shagres. Gava Jovina dendro compatogres, the canon was.
And I've quoted these words of great Indian master Arya Nagarjuna before, and many of you have heard these words. And Geshe quoted the lines again from Nagarjuna's work, which says, bad migration or unfortunate rebirths come from negativities, negative karmas. Good migration or the fortunate rebirths come from positive karmas or actions.
The Yimbateka, Gomoluduka, and then Dajak Tamasha about that, telephone to President Don. Honey, Sena. Big Bat came as I think Gams Puson Job, so juice. Bigger chance, Jamas, the current is the depend, they don't have a town, the Lungia Tata, Ranamantepi, Mundepa Yungo Sosa, Dubatem Majescan. Give up pencil chopper drips, give it the dripping in the Namite and Rana Yidonwaki, Yungo Sonsa, Sanji County the Kanamba tea and then Gobaluduk Magomban training at the Legiton and those Sumberes.
So the lines I just quoted are from the Precious Garland or the Ratna Avali, one of the great works of Arya Nagarjuna. Of course, Nagarjuna just did not come up with these ideas, on his own. He is basically commenting on what Shakyamuni Buddha himself said in his discourses or sutras. And one of the most famous statements of Shakyamuni Buddha that we often quote is, Dikvachya Mijashi, never do or accumulate any kind of negativity. Okay? Always accumulate wealth of virtue or positive actions. Completely subdue your mind. This is the teaching of Buddha. That's the very famous quote from Buddha. So Buddha himself said that we must not do anything that is negative karma. Why? Because negative karma leads to suffering that we don't want, or all kinds of things we don't want, problems and difficulties, they arise from negativity. So therefore don't do it. Okay? We should do the virtue or the positive thing because we all like to have all the pleasant outcomes. We would like to have peace, happiness, prosperity, success, and all this good stuff, as you might say, come out of positive action. So therefore, accumulate the wealth of virtue.
산지 공판당 소소에니 대화니 대화는 거의 상당히나 아니 땡 제발지 마토네 아니 뇌 가고 가니 때 여름에 간난도 람초 둘 생이 참에 때 많이 받도 사죠 용거 말했다 근데 지금 때 약 장보지 많이 받들 아니 람권 양 권에 권도 돼야겠다 아니 너태 야말 사쇼에서 장도 두고 말했을 거네 그래서 그 처음 장도.
So if we are thinking like, okay, so if I'm reborn in unfortunate states of existence such as hell or hungry ghosts, so what's the big deal? Okay. Well, what's the big deal is once we get there, it is, very hard, to get out of such existence. Because basically we will not be able to do much of positive actions. And so for us to be able to, as we say, migrate from happy state to happy state or happier state even. So it is very important for us to find a special life basis, the kind of life basis that we are enjoying right now. Because of this, precious human life, that we are able to, make most out of our life and opportunities so that we do not have to go into difficult situations, but we can basically move from happy to happier state of existence. And as a matter of fact, Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa or Jerimpoche said elsewhere, and again Geshe quoted the lines from his memory. Basically, Jerimpoche said, if we are to accomplish what we call the supreme path, then it is very important for us to find what he called fully, characterized life basis, without which it will be very hard to make progress or advancement. And if we would like to have really great progress and advancement in our spiritual development, then it is really important to find a suitable life basis, the kind that we enjoy at this moment. And then Jerimpoche continues to say that, okay, so that is important to find a fully characterized life basis for making great advancement. But then that life doesn't come on its own. It's not going to happen just by coincidence or by osmosis or something like that. It has to arise from its necessary causes and conditions. So therefore, it all makes sense and logical that we should be accumulating the necessary causes and conditions to have a suitable kind of life basis. Okay, but if we are not, if we don't accumulate the necessary causes and conditions, we do some, but we miss others, then again we won't be able to have the fully characterized suitable life basis. Because this is in the law of nature, right? If we don't create any negativities, we will never have to worry about suffering and bad things happening. Because that's in the law of nature. If you don't do negative things, why should you suffer, right? But if you want the happiness and the positive things, then we have to create good karmas, because without good karmas, they don't come about. So it's all in the law of nature.
당하란 참말로 그 한den시 원람 제주자니 아니 내가 발 마셔야다 다가는 이 연대 고마 터야다 근데 그 원람 제든시 거 이게 나고 뒤줄 말라나 말란 장발 자 컨데 좀 셔야다 그 아니 근데 이거 가고 좀 매빈 제부장시 그 말이지 왜나 힘받는 답변 없이 그나 힘받는 저거 아니 사변 힘갈 사변 짠 맞다듯이 나 땡큐 편적을 용어 효삼니 말람 제지는 용근 베스 그때 용거나 내가 좀 말람 제 정말 짠 되는 되그랬어 기디가 랑도 짠 맞아버시니 아니 되는 되기도 왔어 또 용어 민도 왔어.
And I also want to point out that as important as it is to do prayers and to do dedications of merit, but if we don't create the necessary causes and conditions, simply aspiring for something good to happen or simply wishing for something to happen, that is not likely to happen. Okay? Again, a simple example that I could give is, like, say, a farmer, right, who really wishes the greatest, crop that he could even imagine, and he just make a great prayer for that, aspirational prayer. But if he's not going to work, not going to create the necessary causes and conditions, he's not going to sow, cultivate his field, is he really going to have any bumper crop? He's not likely to have. Yeah, praying is good, but, okay, it's not going to work. So like that, it's good to make prayers, good to do dedication, but if we don't create the necessary causes and conditions for spiritual attainments, for success, for happiness, and all of that, then we are not likely to have that.
라렌 따그레스. 그 라렌 맞다나 단다 빼야야데. 사변 살 맞다나 연투 연구 문제 왔어. 내 나이 나라 쪽에 최해나 최대 라렌을 막그러나 랑더 마제나 파빵고에 파빵 칠랑고에 좀 마시나 아니 데레 만나 잡아 잠지에는 나랑 저는 저거든 중에 갖고 그랬을 때 연구 말했어. 이때 휴가랬어.
So the point I'm making here is that we really need to practice, what we learn about Dharma. Because we may know quite a bit, you see, but that is just intellectual knowledge. If we don't put what we understand about Dharma into practice, then maybe we are not, it's very unlikely that we will experience all the outcomes in Dharma that we talk about. And that makes sense. Like a farmer who wants to grow a particular kind of crops must sow the seeds of those crops into the field. Then he can hope to have something. But if you simply wish things to grow out of nothing, that's not going to happen. He can make all the prayers, but that's not going to work. And so practice is a key here. And there's no substitute to the practice. We may know a lot about Dharma, but without practice, not much is going to change inside us, and not much is going to happen. What does practice really mean is, as we often say, we need to abandon the things we need to get rid of, right? Delusions, negativities, and so on. We need to cultivate, good qualities, the positive actions. So the practice involves these two things, abandonment and cultivation.
진짜 로바 장지 다 가기는 장에 팔지 것은 이 로지 때마도 된다게 그게 아니 변나 아니 리 라레는 막거나 때 로전 되게 변 소마케스 작중 마케스야 다 된대지 강대고 나는 연구 알아봤어 아니 그 아니 된저만 로바 장지 되게 그 소마케스야 주연 전 소게 빵 그거 그랬어 작중 마케스 작중 시간 빵 그거 그랬어 될 라렌스 그랬어.
So some might think that, okay, I'm really reading a lot of book about Dharma, which is good. But reading books is not the same as practicing Dharma. You might read about all this kind of negativities, do not kill, do not lie, do not cheat, do not do this, do that, and you find it very interesting. But if you just stop at that, then it's really you're not practicing it. Once we read it, say do not kill, that means then we should not kill anyone. Don't lie. That's bad. Means don't lie. It doesn't mean just read about it. Okay, that's kind of interesting there. Yeah. So I mean, there shouldn't be a gap between what we read and what we do.
정말로 나랑 정말로 오늘 개점을 기버리지. 휴에서야 대배 이게 양남ning 여딩인데 지기도 지 하하 전도시에 근데 말해서 생부터 상당히 오늘 돈이 뺀 상은 나올 땅.
As I always say that when of course I'm giving teaching and addressing these issues, but I always include myself in the audience. So I'm telling myself as much as I'm telling you, all these things. So it's important for us to really, be practical in many ways. Sometimes we might, get this notion, I'm into Dharma, so it has to be mystic and in the kind of a cyberspace thing, in this abstract world, Dharma, oh my God, there's somebody visualizing up in the, space. Well, that's too high. We don't know in the cyberspace what's happening. But really down on the earth, say, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I saying? How am I leading my life? You see? That's what we're talking about, not just go into some kind of a mental trip, into outer space.
Begins that the
Yes. So don't get too much caught up with miracles and this and that and all those mystified stuff.
Pena there is Lambreno Ligara Translator and Getting diamond of the data, and the series of Geshes in the shown to us. Yenayate, getting diamond around the series of Geshes, Tang in Rangan, Lame, and now the Madeva you scanning the was.
So, of course, we do hear a lot of story about the practitioners who narrate their story about, they had a vision of Aryatara. Maybe they had a vision of Manjushri. They had a vision of Avalokiteshvara. Well, that's wonderful. Okay. But then, according to, some great masters, we should not, necessarily be so much caught up with having a visions of this deity and that deity and all that. But what really is important is if we always keep in our practice and in our thought and mind that what I'm really, my guru, or which means qualified spiritual guru, I should put in a footnote, is inseparable from any of these meditational deities. If I can always be mindful of my guru being inseparable from the deities, that's, all that we need. That includes everything.
Lame Nawata Mandevish, you saw at the Karisana, Lame got number. Any selling Yani data Mangawachi in Chigus Kanangaris.
So, that statement includes that, because if we are always mindful of a guru and guru's words, that means we always try to, put as much as we can the words of guru into practice, right? Because guru is so important. We see guru as being inseparable from the deities and whatnot. So then it's so precious and so empowering and inspiring that we basically want to, do what guru tells us to do.
So the starting in around summer local. Only starting with Majiskan and was starting with Majisani. There's King Marita, Lokaki, King Marisamni, Tangzi, Jawan the Chin, Shavina, and Karsogrita, around any trade, Shigam Dogu, or Tagani Dipa style, and then Jam have 3 Chayungo Sonsa, Maranzo, any during one Medubajita. Rani, Tandan de me, little Tom de Gior, the Yena, did Tawa Degu married. And it think one is not done, I'm just chamaking about Sango, was. Children so.
One of the major obstacles we as Dharma practitioners experience in our life, all of us, is our grasping at permanence of life, and which always gives us the wrong message. Okay, that as if we are going to live forever. Okay, you're just fine, you're young, you're not that old, you're not that young but not that old, so you still have tons of years to live, although we really don't know. And so it just keeps us misfeeding all this information, and we keep on believing them like, okay, I'm just fine, I'm just, not going to die anytime soon. And then it just hits us, and then we are caught by surprise and helpless. And so in that way, when we follow the, dictate or the dictation of this order of the grasping and permanence of life, we miss all the opportunity to do Dharma practice. We just, don't really care too much about all the negativities, we find ourselves doing, And so we end up, doing all kinds of negativities. Yeah. So that's why the great masters always advise us that it is so fortunate that we have found this precious human life, fully endowed human form. Basically, we can do any kind of practice, but at the same time, just get real. This life is impermanent. It's not here forever. Okay? However wonderful this life is, it is a transient, it is ephemeral, it is impermanent. Okay? So if we kind of be mindful of that dimension or the impermanent aspect of our life, then we will act better, right? If we just practice as if, I don't know if I'm going to die today, I better do my practice or behave as best as I can. Well, that doesn't mean we have died today, right? We might live whatever the karma decided it, but if we think about I might die any moment, doesn't mean we will die, have to die, So in that way, we become very vigilant, we become very mindful of our actions, thought processes, and practice. But on the other hand, if we ignore the impermanent aspect of our life, then we think like we are here forever, and then we will lose opportunities to practice Dharma and find ourselves in doing many wrong things.
So, mata pintu hiji yena, mata pintu hiji manya parang yena, ane ta tambo chulin juba tenga tishigal, tadu chulin go temba tenga tishigal, tama ane te rebu thaya tenga, ane chulin tumde thaya tenga, ane mata pi kuini, dushin ta mata pate, ane chulin kaza tonta parsumli kechawachi res.
Realized masters have, unanimously agreed with this, that awareness of impermanence of life and things is a very, it's a source of inspiration and a very motivational factor. Okay? If you really think about the impermanence of life, at the beginning, it inspires us, it instigates us, it motivates us to do practice, to do the things in the right way. Okay? In the middle, it helps us to nurture our practice, to nurture our spiritual development. Of course, at the end, it helps us to accomplish, what we really decide, we would like to accomplish. So therefore, awareness of impermanence of life and things is so important in our spiritual life and spiritual development. So just as awareness of impermanence is so important, as we would say, at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, when we think in terms of spirituality as a lifespan practice or development, in the same way, from Mahayana perspective, from the perspective of Bodhisattva's point of view, development of great compassion is as such. It is, very important, at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. So how is great compassion important at the beginning, if you ask? Well, if we have cultivated great compassion, then great compassion gives rise to bodhicitta, bodhisattva's attitude. So when we have bodhicitta, then we have entered into the Mahayana path. And also, once we have developed bodhicitta, what really motivates us to engage in the actions of bodhisattvas, the deeds of bodhisattvas to benefit all sentient beings, again, it's the great compassion. Great compassion is always nudging us, always, motivating us to engage in bodhisattva actions. So you were thinking, what do bodhisattva actions or deeds involve? Bodhisattva's actions basically include the 6 perfections, from generosity to the wisdom, and there is what we call the 4 points of gathering sentient beings and maturing their minds, such as pleasant speech.
That in San Genia, need to be good, singing true thing, so I need to be good in the Sunday to turn on singing don't do it. San Genia, singing don't do it, need to be good in it. Then they will Sanji combat Tomnita, Tama Parki, Kaisha Dosiris.
So at the beginning, great compassion gives rise to bodhicitta, so we enter into really the Mahayana path. In the middle, great compassion is always, motivating us to engage in the bodhisattva actions of the deeds to benefit sentient beings. Then at the end, when we become a Buddha, completely enlightened being, again the great compassion doesn't let us sit idly, so to speak, that it always motivates us, okay, now is the time to turn the wheel of Dharma, to teach Dharma, to, benefit sentient beings through teachings.
That in the Imbadia, when the Chodas and Nandua, Duji Tuji Comites, Java Tuji Chamber, the Combalatania, and in those in a star, Shangis and Bishabal Hoya, Tani Tar, Ani, Sanji Combatoni, and to say, there's a Jason Zimbatiante, and he tell me Chimbonk Nangaris. So
what I've just explained, it could be supported by the great words of Indian master Acharya Dharmakirti in his valid cognition text of Pramana Vartika. And again, Geshe quoted the line, which says if we are kind of wondering, how could Bodhisattvas do so much for sentient beings, and how could one become a Buddha? And once one becomes a Buddha, how Buddhas really work so tirelessly for sentient beings? Then here, according to great Dharmakirti, he says, it's basically through the power of familiarization with great compassion, they are able to do all that. See, when we cultivate great compassion, we cultivate more and more intimacy with this great compassion, enhance it, to the greatest extent possible. This is called a familiarization. So by the power of such intimacy with great compassion, that we could do all the things Bodhisattvas are able to do, and all the things that Buddhas are able to do. So I thought, sharing those ideas, would be helpful to one and all of us here. Maybe for some of you, this is not a new information. Maybe this serves as a reminder, rather, what we should be thinking about. And for some new people, this may be a new information. So at least you get something to contemplate, to ponder upon, and to meditate on. Tabangres, Sudin number the Kibel, so the listening with them. Diget Ming Mesam.
That thing is the thing is it, around to tell the gay chamber race. Thing is the same Miguel, that's same Miguel do Yadizani, till it take it that neighbor, same, that's same reason, same, and the thing is the same.
So we're returning to where we left off in this wonderful text called a miscellaneous collection of Kadampa Geshe's advices. And so the third major point is that we need to cultivate what is called Tingizin, samadhi or concentration or meditative absorption, some translate as. Of course, there are many ways to cultivate concentration, but 3 main practices are talked about here. And just to repeat them, they are to abide by the pure ethics or morality, to supplicate lineage gurus or the masters, and to isolate our body and mind from, hustle and bustle, which Geshe loves to hear. So there's the one. And so now when we talk about concentration or things, what I'm really talking about is, it is a state of mind where, if we would like to, focus on a phenomenon or a subject or object, that we want to really make as if we want our mind to sit very silently and quietly on that object. Can we do that? You see, that kind of a stability of the mind is called Tenzin, concentration.
Tangin hemaki hu bas. Tenzin da ane rang semla wang joa po chungbi na ane ta karshota. Ane rang mi karati mi ba karikili mi bingin ta. Ante ne toba ta ane karshota. Tachamba kita mi bati mi ne ane tumre file ta le sawi halis.
Yes. And I said this before, but I'm going to repeat it again here, that if we develop stability of the mind, which is called concentration, if we let concentration rule our mind, then, whatever object we want to direct our mind to, okay, and place our mind on whatever object, that our mind will be able to stay on it, fix on it. And that kind of, the stability of the mind is so important to accomplish all kinds of spiritual outcomes.
That thing is that thing is going to mango to us. Thing is jamba, same bala pe no say ne toya that's the next show begin. There's something to them. There's something you won't want to maris.
I think these days many people seem to love to do meditation and cultivate concentration and samadhi. So it seems like, okay, I am the samadhi meditators, which is nice. But also we have to be, look at the thing from all sides and angles. Is that the only thing that's needed, to get wherever we want to go spiritually? The answer is no. As important as it is to cultivate concentration, but just simply achieving concentration or stability of the mind is not enough to get anywhere much, really. Because concentration has no power to get rid of the delusions in our mind. Okay, it can help us to get rid of delusions, but concentration is not the antidote to delusions.
Something
And again, I'm not saying it just on my own. In the words of Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa Rinpoche, again, Geshe quoted lines which says that, it's so important, it says that mere concentration, single-pointed concentration, the emphasis is on the word mere, or having single-pointed concentration alone, that's the Tibetan word sam, okay, does not have the power to uproot delusions and get out of samsara.
Hine lamta travel hanton chi chitam chi nyomo dog mares so sa tingin jing ya here go draw shenke that tingin jing mena here go nyomo ba kem di chani that cover res tingin dus nin so ki go kan.
So single pointed concentration alone is not adequate. It does not have the power to uproot delusions from within our mind. But at the same time, we cannot uproot delusions without it either. You see, we do need to cultivate wisdom or the special insight, vipassana, to get rid of delusions. But without concentration, we won't be able to develop the strong enough vipassana insight to get rid of delusions. See, so what we really need is this combination of shamatha, the calm abiding, which is a form of concentration, and vipassana or special insight. When we integrate those two paths, while we have the stability of the mind, we have the wisdom, then, through that integrated approach, we will be able to get rid of delusions.
You posa chepe and don't want you to be sharp cheese. And that you are maybe the same Mabala take the naked Hinela Tene, and then you make a thousand type of with challenges. And then Tenzin Dorjee you was that dozens but who never cares, never saw any pay Germany, never Zoyala, and then some of Tomban you don't talk about it, someone you don't, they are Tony. Tele ani chet kasi tingin si toki gugaris. Tingin so tone ane ranjili ya pinyomo tu chamalo dan dus mevasone kyamya. Ani bat yungres.
So Geshe completed the whole the quotes from Lama Tsongkhapa, which are very poetic and very profound, and unfortunately your translator have no capacity to do on the spot justice here. But I could do my best to translate the meaning here, which is, so they use the metaphor of special insight of Vipassana as like the horse rider, okay? And calm abiding or the single-pointed concentration here is like the horse, right? So if there is a powerful horse rider riding a powerful horse, and then he or she holds this powerful weapon of the reasoning of the middle path, okay? So with that, all of that assembled together, he or she can definitely cut through, defeat, the network of misconceptions, especially grasping at self, okay? So that's, in a very poetic and metaphorical sense, it is presented. So basically, what we are talking about here is this, that the real antidote to delusions is the wisdom that perceives emptiness as it is, okay? But in order to cultivate that wisdom, we also need to cultivate calm abiding or concentration. Concentration alone cannot do the job. It is wonderful, but it does not have the power to uproot the delusions. So concentration can help assist the wisdom realizing emptiness to cut through the delusions. And the root delusion that we have is grasping at the true existence of I or the self. Okay. So now I hope we can get the picture that how we need to find this integrated approach of concentration and wisdom realizing emptiness to cut through delusions. So even when we look, within the perspective of Tantra or Vajrayana, or from that perspective, that concentration and wisdom realizing emptiness are indispensable. Because even in the tantric practice, when we think about this, I'm going to do the deity yoga meditation, visualization of deities and mandalas and everything, which is considered a very speedy path and all that. But without concentration and without the wisdom realizing emptiness, we cannot practice Tantra. Now, I should clarify this point. When I said that without concentration and wisdom realizing emptiness, we cannot practice Tantra, what I really meant is, of course, at our stage, we are using much of the imaginative power, the power of the mind to visualize stuff, because most of us really don't have concentration, don't have the wisdom realizing emptiness, don't have bodhicitta, don't have great compassion, don't have all of that, but yet we are practicing Tantra. That is fine. So long as we try to integrate great compassion, bodhicitta, wisdom realizing emptiness as much as we can in our thought processes, in our meditation and visualization, and then do the deity yoga practice, this is how we will be able to have the actual realizations, later on. So now if we honestly assess our own situation, in terms of doing like kind of a, what you call taking the stock of our positive actions and negative actions, like say, okay, now where do we stand right now? And so all of us, I'm not just simply talking, to you, just looking at myself, that when we look at how much positive actions or the wealth of virtue we have accumulated, we are really basically like a poor beggar. We don't have much. Yeah. Now when we look at how much delusions and negativities we have, we are extremely rich. Just like we have a whole like a treasure house of the delusions and negativities. And this is where we stand right now, as tragic and as sad as it is. Of course, I can go on talking about this stuff. Maybe that's a good point to stop there, right? So, food for thought. So we need to find concentration or search for, meaning that we need to cultivate concentration or samadhi that we don't have, and there are many ways or techniques to do that, and three ways are mentioned here.
That children number tapade, songad, children number tap songad cake with chagger. Children about you song beginner, then you are shower nyonga, that late chagger. Doing you shower you and chag, I think it's the end those who come this and that tell any, say that, let heaven dog yours.
So as we said earlier, if we abide by the pure discipline or moral ethics, that is a major practice or a cause to cultivate concentration. Why? If our life is disciplined, our life is going to be much less hectic and crazy, because we won't be distracted by zillions of things. We stay focused. We are not being distracted by many things. We make time to cultivate practice. We're not running around, wandering out, nowhere. And therefore, as you can see, this really helps us to cultivate samadhi. So what is involved in this observing pure ethics is, we are disciplining our, ourselves and our senses, if you will. We need to restrain our sense from following different objects so that we get distracted. Make zula cha, na dala cha, ne that drilla cha, ke rolla cha, lushik any rizala cha, those in that negative, Shamang Hibushi to Tony, Shamang Hibushi living quarters. Now, if you're wondering why do we need to discipline or restrain our sense doors, as we would say, is because now think about this. Because we have good eyesight, what does our eyes do? They always follow after the things which are attractive and beautiful and chase them. Okay, so life becomes extremely busy. Now, what do our ears do? They're always following the pleasant sound and the speech and everything that is nice to hear. Okay, so what do our nose do? It always runs over the good smell and get mad with the bad smell. And what about our tongue do? It always chases the delicious food and great taste. And then what do our tactile power or consciousness do? It always follows the touch, the pleasant touch and the smooth touch and all the nice touch. So as all our sense doors are open and they chase all their objects, life becomes extremely hectic and busy. So those who observe pure ethics and discipline, right, then their life is not going to be hectic like that. So imagine that, if we stop chasing, if we kind of shut the sense doors, if we could, for whatever time, we are not going to chase them. How much time we are left with? So what else to do? Now we can just focus on our object of meditation. That's the only thing we could do. There's nothing to chase around, So that's how, the stability of the mind is cultivated and developed.
That in that nimbatere, that and the Dodushi, that the Haran, Son of those Donans and take the Tony. The Pusav, Sosu, Lodia, Loga Jidis, some tea Tony and Mambutonji. Of
course, I try to give you, a brief explanation of everything. And I think this would, serve a good purpose at the moment. Now, as you learn more things, and then of course you can add and expand your thinking, right? You can enhance your meditation as you learn more about different aspects of Dharma.
다 님버티 가래서는 집에 라마로 소환다 봐서 그래라 개침버렸어. 집에 라마 송도와 다 자외 라마 등 뭐서랬다. 너는 집에 라마 송에 란드 자외 라마네 다 라메 라마시 집에 라마시다 산지 겸디듯이 버도. 란드 자외 라마네 산지 겸디듯이 버도 다 집에 라마 차거. 진짜 춘대 뭐도지 라마 자외 라마스. 다 집에 라마시도 라메 라마도 다 집에 라마 차거. 그래서 그 판도스 대비는 산지 겸디듯이 버도도 그래서
Now, the second practice that's important for cultivating concentration is supplicating lineage spiritual gurus or masters. By lineage, what we mean is that the gurus from whom we have not received teachings directly. Now, we have gurus from whom we receive teachings directly. Now, these are our what we call root gurus or direct gurus, right? We hear, directly teachings from them. But there are teachers, that are teachers' teachers, right? And we can trace back, who is my teacher, and who is his teacher or her teacher, and who is the teacher of that. So you go back, great teachers, the great grand teachers, and you go all the way back to the Buddha. So those are the lineage masters,
다 틀리려 아니 손대 규선에 로 최선도가 최랑년도가 라라 받침에 받더니 다 손대 주 그래서 바빠네 뒤따전.
So when we say supplicate them, what do we mean by supplicate them? Means we need their blessings and inspirations. We said, please bless us to be able to transform our mind, direct our mind into Dharma, spirituality. Please bless us and inspire us so that we are able to succeed in cultivating spiritual path. Please bless and inspire us so that we are able to complete our spiritual journey, without much obstacles. So this is what we do in our supplication.
다 던디버시 다 손바데니 루세 원바템바스 아니 루타 셈미버데 원바템바데 개첨부 차거레스.
Now the third practice that's important for cultivating samadhi or concentration is, as we said, cultivating solitude, isolating our body and mind, be in a solitude. Now that's important.
다 원바세한테 시단이 좋은 파 아니 장론의 침에데 the embassy 사이 돈도 쓰면 되지. 아니 민망번년된 돈좀 마셔서 진짜 embassy 있나야 단데 embassy 란트 다 embassy 루도 심이여스 녹선.
The Tibetan term Wenpa literally means to isolate or solitude. Okay, usually when we talk about isolation, probably we are more likely to take it to mean that, okay, you are not going to associate with too many people. You're just going to be alone by yourself. That's an isolation, right? If you are just, don't want to live in a very crowded place, you just go to the furthest distance from that crazy place and live somewhere in a, peaceful place. That is an isolation too. But here, we are talking about, yes, that kind of physical isolation or solitude, as well as, isolating our mind as well from, busyness.
Lu embassy at Karisna, the Mimangwichi in the social pay, Yan Rode Majabashe, Society would have the Lu embassy.
So physical isolation could be understood as that we do not just go and cultivate crowds and be with and socialize with them and get busy, but we physically isolate ourselves from the crowd and the hectic and craziness and be in a solitude physically. Now that's what it means.
다 same embassy. 다 social 장당거다. social랑 마도 이미 인다 장동잖아. social 다 same embassy, same 난도 그 embassy. 남으로 똑바 마부 기부지 내 답상의 마부 당시 뜻이야비는 same embassy 내기야 말이야.
Of course, as we are talking about this, again, I would like to remind that we have to, we just think about one's own self. Okay, where do I stand and how do these things apply to me personally? Okay, don't worry about the other people. And so now we need to isolate our mind. Our mind has to be in a solitude, meaning that our mind should be isolated from all kind of the busy thought processes, worries and concerns and, negative attitudes and thoughts and all this busy thing happening in the mind, all what we call the preconceptions, conceptual thoughts. Because these are distracting our mind. These are making our mind so busy. Okay? So we try to isolate our mind from all those busy thought processes.
Tanda thing is going to Shine going to send listen
Yes. So in order to cultivate samadhi or concentration, so we need to how should I say, cultivate both types of isolation, physical isolation as well as mental isolation.
Sing then to mind the hiking and mind that motive. Alas, tell you say ember never say. Luther say, when but ten batang sum sita, but when but ten carina, so in Corseta, gum duagata, debutata, toileta, lil
So if we isolate ourselves physically from noise, crowds, and all the hecticness, well, that will facilitate the development of concentration, as we can see. If we isolate our mind from busy worries, anxiety, concerns, and all kinds of issues in the mind, then that will facilitate the cultivation of concentration.
Thing decided to say, and then there's some corner checking this.
No.
No checking of that to doing this someone and do those.
No. So here in the text, great Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen goes on to say that in order to cultivate the shamatha, calm abiding or mental tranquility, and also vipassana or special insight or wisdom, that those three things we just talked about, are very important practices, because those three practices could subsume or include other auxiliary practices within this. To summarize the point here, that if we would like to cultivate calm abiding or mental quiescence, mental tranquility, we would like to cultivate special insight of vipassana, then we need to do these three things. We need to observe pure ethics, we need to supplicate the lineage masters for blessings, inspiration, and we need to isolate our body and mind from hustle and bustle. Yeah. And then we will succeed, in our practice.
The good days, till the yams long base, that long venus. But the good is in something that and Tama, something Tama the child of the Kimas, something in 100 charges. The children around Russia and Ali, Zanimaka hearing a chance of Jaguars. She said, my ladies and the children would be like you have showers. Then go with this, better, then go with the training yams long pace. They should do it, any bread training yams long by in Nasta. And they shall say number you but the English Julie, the number ye, Nanga, huge cigarettes.
And here it says that if we put together, integrate those 9 practices. Okay, now we started off with 3 key points, remember. Each key practice is supported by 3 subsidiary practices. So therefore, we have, in this case, the 9 practices come out of those related to the 3 key points. So if we put them together, have an integrated practice, then we will be able to cultivate the 2 types of bodhicitta, very powerfully. And if we really practice well, the 2 types of bodhicitta will spontaneously, it will spontaneously arise, in our mind. And so Geshe would like to say that relating to that, because there are 9 points we talked about, and some of you might say, okay, what are the other points? We already discussed those before. And so he would like to give you assignment here. Because for the next several weeks, Geshe would not be able to teach. So we are going to have a break of his teachings, but at the same time, Geshe would like to give us assignment. So there's a break and no break at the same time, I think. So that's my understanding.
This group, Tenda Gobuti, only Yaboshi, Jenny, Shane, Yams Lambayina, and no Shanju send number you couldn't change the Tanda Shanju saying what they you share race. So that Toronto, so you take Tenda Gobuti, Karen, the Teni, Yigitini, Munjani Fix, and
So, as we said at the end here, if we know the 9 points of the practices really well, we really understand them well, we try to put them into practice, then we are on a way to succeed, on a successful way to cultivate the 2 types of bodhicitta. So he wanted to make sure that everybody understands the 9 points, and so he said, so that's your homework. We talked about all of those before, and go and find out about this, and make sure take notes, and so when we return, means Geshe return to teach, so he wanted to check with us, and so we should have the answer. So this could open book thing, but we got to know open book exam here. Yeah, nice. So Geshe says, don't cheat. So don't ask me because I have the text. See, I have the textbook. So he says I cannot be part of that because I have the textbook, part of the exam. So after all, it's not an open book, so I guess you get to discuss and, find out.
Is
there an English translation of this text based on Geshe Wangjel's work, something like that? Yeah?
There was a copy made.
Okay, that was copy made. Okay.
It's a chapter from a book, but it's not a very good translation.
But it has all the points, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people like some translations, don't like. That's a different point. But yeah, if those are the points, yeah, maybe good. Bloody. So we stop there today, and I want to just announce that we will keep a break for a couple of weeks, actually until somebody go to check the calendar. I think January 14th. Is that a Sunday? No, 7 I know, we checked, it's 14. So, I always check with the Geshe, whatever other things happen. 14th, not the 7. 1 week after 7 is 14th. So, what day is that? Sunday? That's all I want to take. Okay. And so I don't mind sharing the information about myself. It's something to do with my health issue, not a big concern, but I have got an eye problem, and I went to see a doctor. I need to see again a few times, and he suggested that I need to go through all the the procedure. And although I could see, but he said it's better to go through examination and whatever other things he needed to do. So he said I need to rest my eyes for a while, should not use them. So because of that, so I won't be teaching for a couple of weeks until January 14, not 7, 14. I said, whatever, if that's a Sunday, And so I also that if people would like to come here for Sundays, what we will do is we have recorded teachings. Venerable Tharzo Anela will be in charge of that, and we will show the video, recorded teachings of Geshe. Yes, you can come and listen. Of course, I do appreciate you making efforts to come here, attend the teachings, all that. That's really important and good. But at the same time, it's important for us to do study as well, whatever we could. It's not enough just to attend teaching and then we don't, study on our own. So we need also make time to do studies. So I know that many of you make time, to do your study and do practice every day at home. So that's very good. So I would emphasize that, make a schedule, of your study time and practice time, so that every day, you make some time to do study and practice.
가생하면 그거야지. 다 교수 니가 교수 니기도 왔어. 교수 제일 내가 시는데 교수 교류도 왔어. 다 교류 그때는 안다니 아니 딱 노수 거니 아니 소수 교시할 때 교수 숨다니 된 많다니 가버스대.
I think I must have said this once before that all of us have in the same amount of time. There are 24 hours in a day. Of course, 8 hours we need to sleep, so that's out. Now we are left with 16 hours.
8 hours work.
8 hours we need to work, right? And now out of this other 8, at least we should find 2 hours to study and practice. Okay.
That is so pazogomato.
So I think as you have a saying, you have to make time, right? If you just kind of think like it's going to happen on it, so it's not going to happen, So we need to make time for our study and practice. So that's really important. So make it a part of our schedule, daily schedule. I need to do my study and practice, So as practitioners of Buddha's teaching, we also need to really, cultivate our faith and trust in Shakyamuni Buddha as our teacher and in his teachings. I think, did you say that tomorrow you are leading a meditation? Okay. So those who come to the meditation, tomorrow Venerable Geshe is leading meditation, and then she will announce if there's going to be next one or not or whatever. Okay.
Oh yeah. And
also Geshe says right after the teaching he has a guest visiting him, so you may postpone your visit to him today. No, a Tibetan is visiting him.
Oh yeah, tangaran samalo chuchi shibi give all atene sanji tembara bochi kaji gere de nepata. Ani jawi biche bitin shiba tamban shukuni chebi temba to yindo to me bindo yomata. Ani chu dongkin ji show pomanamji kuni jawan ngi sanan dobata. Gidin je kam de ginde mintibi guso ta da kini tinjin so ta da me bindo yomata.
By the power of our collective merit, may Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness, flourishes throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great holy beings and masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May these and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and may beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. Last but not least, we dedicate our collective merit, positive energy for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of 2 types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
No. Nam